Hello there and welcome to the FM Scout YouTube channel. I'm CurtyFM and this is the second episode of our new weekly series, Tactic Tuesday, where we will look at real life tactics and try and recreate them within Football Manager 2017. As you can see from the thumbnail, we're looking at Jurgen Klopp and his famous Gegenpressing system that he is now utilising to middling effect at Liverpool. To be fair, they've had a really good start to the season. They've started to trail off a little bit. We're going to look at the system and see if we can understand why that might be happening. But before we get into that, I'd like to invite you over to my channel, CurtyFM. I've just finished a Let's Play series with Arsenal. I'm going to be starting a new save with Aldershot, my hometown club, who happen to be the team I support as well, which is an added bonus. But yeah, feel free to come over there, check out my stuff. If you like it, subscribe. If not, you'll see me regularly on the FM Scout YouTube channel anyway. So let's get into this video. Now, the first thing I want to address before I show you the tactic is Gegenpressing. What is Gegenpressing? It's a term we hear quite often when people talk about Jurgen Klopp, but what does it actually mean? Gegenpressing literally translates to counter-pressing. Now, what is counter-pressing? Is it just another hipster term that's being thrown around by know-it-all tactics bods who just like to seem clever? Well, no, is the answer to that. Counter-pressing. So let's look at the key components of counter-pressing and why it can be so effective. Number one is to aggressively press the ball-carrying opposition player to try and win the ball back as high as possible up the pitch within opposition territory, or at least force them into playing an aimless long ball so that we can win possession back. Why do we do this? Basically, to try and enable us to be in a position high up the pitch where we can play that killer through ball or a combination of passing to get us into goal easier than when the opposition have their defensive shape and their defensive players in the positions that they want to be in. So basically, we're just trying to catch them out before they can move back into their defensive positions. Number two, when we do win the ball, we want to create I use the term organised chaos, with players possibly switching positions, moving into channels, moving between lines. We're trying to play an explosive attacking brand of football by creating a lot of confusion within the defence of the opposition. Number three kind of ties in with number two. We're going to play with a narrow front three. We want our players to be close together. We want them making little triangles, little passing combinations without having to sort of spread the ball wide or play the ball long. So we're going to play with a narrow front three, and our wing backs are going to try and give us the width when we're attacking. And finally, number four, we're going to play with a high defensive line. Basically, when you're playing a pressing game, we need to squeeze the pitch. We need to make the pitch as short as possible. We want the team to move forward and backwards in a unit, press together, so that we can try and force the opposition into as many mistakes as possible. So, here is the tactic. First thing you'll probably notice is that it's strikerless. I'll go into why in a minute, but we'll talk about each position, what we've done for each position, and also the team instructions to just clarify why we've added the instructions that we have. So looking at the team instructions first, you can see I've gone with counter mentality because I believe that is the mentality that suits this formation best. We are looking for explosive football. We are looking to counter teams after we win the ball back. So the counter mentality just is the best way forward. In terms of team shape, we've set it to fluid. I could have set it to very fluid, but we've settled on fluid. Fluid because I want all my players to be involved in transitional phases and work as a unit, to be honest with you. So part of this tactic is that we need to try and squeeze the pitch, shorten the length of the pitch. So the team needs to move as a fluid unit. Too much separation leads to too many gaps, and we can't press effectively if that's the case. So we've settled on fluid. Like I say, very fluid could work. I've not tested it. Feel free to and let me know. Okay, tempo. We want to play a much higher tempo than counter. Counter in this game works in the kind of traditional counter-attacking sense. So you'll look to get men behind the ball and then spring counter-attacks. So what we've done is we've amended these team instructions to try and get as close to Gegenpressing as possible. So we're going to look to retain a bit of possession ourselves, But when we win the ball back, we want to be playing at a really high tempo, nice quick passes between players. In terms of width, we just left the width as standard, really. We're not looking to target our wide players. We're not looking to play the ball wide essentially and get crosses into the box. All of our players, well, you saw from the tactics screen that we're playing with a narrow formation. Our best players are sitting in that narrow formation, so playing wide doesn't really make sense. The wing backs will offer us width, but it's not something we want to focus on. We've gone for a higher defensive line. Obviously we're pressing the ball, and we talked about moving up and down the pitch as a unit, so having a higher defensive line is key to that. We're using the offside trap because we're going to be leaving a lot of space behind us, and one way to combat that is to have a nice line of defence so that we can catch any players trying to run in behind us, possibly by catching them offside. Closing down, obviously we're closing down more, as we've discussed. We're going to prevent short goalkeeper distribution. We're also going to use tighter marking just to back up that pressing game. If we're pressing, there's no point doing that if you're going to leave players unmarked so that the opposition can just pass the ball around you easily. We're going to use tighter marking to make sure that we try and cut out those passing lanes. We're going to pass into space because when we do win the ball back, our players will hopefully be bursting forward and exposing the opposition and the space that they leave. We're going to use shorter passing. I was tempted to leave that as mixed, but we're going to try with shorter. Liverpool tend to play a sort of quick, zippy passing game, so shorter passing is probably more suited. We want our players to be as expressive as possible, especially the front three. As I mentioned earlier, be trying to create an organised chaos, so we want our most creative players to be as creative as they can possibly be. Work ball into box just makes sense. I don't want players hitting pointless long shots, especially playing at a higher tempo. I want players to avoid taking long shots. I don't want them to be rushed into just shooting from 30 yards. Completely pointless within this tactic. And we're also roaming from position. Again, going back to that organised chaos term, we want our players to be drawing defenders out. We want them to possibly even be switching positions. So roaming from positions is just important. Okay, so let's look at each role, what we've set for each role, because a few of these players we've modified slightly from their default role settings. So Mignolet is playing as a sweeper keeper. It just makes sense. If we're playing with a higher line, a sweeper keeper is more likely to just come and clear out any balls over the top that a normal goalkeeper would. The only instructions we've set to him is that we don't want to give away possession when Mignolet picks up the ball, so fewer risky passes and to roll it out, which he'll do to... I mean, you can set it to roll out to one particular defender if you want to, but I'm not that bothered. As long as he's not hoofing the ball clear and giving away possession, I'm happy. Right, Nathaniel Klein, just pretty much standard complete wing-back attack settings. All we've asked him to do is mark tighter, which just fits into our overall team instructions, really. On the opposite side, Moreno, he's a supporting complete wing-back. Again, we've just asked him to mark tighter, no other additional instructions. Both centre-backs are just normal centre-backs, but we've asked them to close down much less. These are the two sort of defensive linchpins of the tactic. If they get dragged out of position, pressing the ball higher up, we could end up being more exposed than we already are to balls over the top. These guys, I just want them to hold their position and just be solid centre-backs. Which I know if you're a Liverpool fan, the term solid centre-back is it's probably something you've not heard for a while. In terms of the midfield, we've got Jordan Henderson as a central midfielder defend, and then either side of him, two ball-winning midfielders. The reason I've set them as ball-winning midfielders is because that's probably the most effective way of getting the midfielders to close down aggressively within Football Manager. The reason I've singled out Jordan Henderson is because he tends to play slightly deeper than the other two midfielders and just recycles possession, so he'll drop back slightly from those two players, especially with the instructions we've given him. He'll still close down the ball, but not to the extent of the two midfielders either side of him. So Jordan Henderson is just a standard central defensive midfielder. All we've asked him to do is mark tighter. If you look at the player instructions for a central midfielder defend, he already closes down the ball, but like I say, we're just asking him to sit slightly deeper than the other two. The ball-winning midfielders both have got the same instructions. They're asked to mark tighter. They're asked to get further forward because we want them supporting the front three. They're asked to play more risky passes just because as they're supporting the front three, there's going to be a lot of movement going on. We should be playing the ball into space once we've won the ball back. So risky passes, that's fine by me. But yeah, they both have the same instructions. Now, the front three, I toyed with the idea of using Firmino as a defensive forward, but I feel like a support striker presses the central defenders when they have the ball much more effectively because he's coming at them from the front rather than from the side. A defensive forward will still position himself along the defensive line, the opposition defensive line, whereas the supporting striker will sit just in front and press the ball more effectively. Okay, so let's look at the Coutinho role. We've set him as an advanced playmaker attack. However, we have asked him to do certain things outside of his role. So we've asked him to close down more. We're asking him to get further forward. And then we're asking him to move into channels and roam from position. Even though he's a playmaker, he will still be pressing the ball nice and high. He'll be moving into space. He's an intelligent attacking player anyway. It just makes sense to try and give him as much creative freedom as possible. On the other side, we've got Mane as an attacking midfielder. Obviously a playmaker we're looking to get on the ball more, i.e. Coutinho, whereas Mane, we want him to be a bit more direct. We want him to get the ball, run at the defence and cause havoc that way. So outside of his role, we've asked him to, again, close down more, fitting into the system. He's also going to move into channels and roam from position, but we also want him to dribble more as well. You know, he's a winger by trade, so it just makes sense, even though we're playing him slightly more centrally, for him to go on instinct and run at players. And then, yeah, support striker role, Firmino, all we've asked him to do is roam from position. We've also set in the opposition instructions just to close down every single opposition player when they have the ball. Just makes it easier to put this in the settings. This is how we're going to approach every game, so whack this in the opposition instructions in your tactic and yeah, happy days. That's the bulk of the tactic. Now we can look at it in practice. So as I did in the last video, if you saw it, the Conte 3-4-3 video, I've simmed forward to a point in the season, and as you can see, in terms of competitive matches, it's gone pretty well. We've dropped points against Watford, West Ham, Tottenham at home, which was disappointing, Everton at home, and Bournemouth away. So some teams you'd expect us to beat there, but we've also had some really, really good results. So we beat Man City 4-3 at the Etihad, and we beat Arsenal 3-1 at the Emirates. So two cracking results. So I'll just show you, I mean, you can see we're top. After 14 games we're top. Okay, the reason I've stopped the simulation here, and I'll show you why, is partly similar reasons to why I stopped the simulation in the Chelsea save. It's been going really, really well. I'm confident that this tactic works. However, we're coming up to the January transfer window, and you can see on the squad how many players are wanted by other clubs, and other clubs that would be considered bigger than Liverpool in this game. I've already had to arrange transfers for Daniel Sturridge and Lucas Leiva purely because their misery at not getting first team football, my assistant obviously decided that they weren't suitable for the system, was causing a bit of disruption within the squad. If some of these other players that are wanted by other clubs start getting unhappy, because ultimately we're Liverpool, obviously a huge club, but we're not in the Champions League this year. So if players start to get unhappy, then the whole morale of the squad drops, and this whole simulation's completely pointless. If you were managing the club yourself, you would probably organise the squad harmony better. You'd keep players happier. So that is why I've stopped the simulation now, because I wanted it to be a true reflection of how this tactic plays and what it's capable of. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to look at some examples of highlights from a few of these games, just to show you the key components of the tactic that we discussed earlier in action. So the first goal I want to show you is actually from a friendly that we played at the start of the season. It's just a good example of when we lose the ball but win it back really, really quickly. It doesn't give Milan time to get into good defensive positions, and we're able to exploit the space. So Mane has the ball here. He's running into a bit of a channel. He's got Klein wide, but he decides to dribble. but we ask him to dribble more. So he hasn't released the ball yet, but he loses it and then wins it back instantly. So I'm just going to run this forward. So Mane tries to come inside. He's got 3 players around him. They win it off him, but he wins it back instantly. And now what he's done there is he's played the ball into space behind the Milan defence. We've got 2 players up against 1 central defender, this number 29, who's kind of out of the game at this point, really. Coutinho's got a huge amount of space to run into. And it just shows a great example of what can happen if you win the ball back high up the pitch and play quick passes to exploit the space that the defence leave when moving into a transitional phase. So roll it on. Coutinho scores a lovely goal, and yeah, really pleased with that one. Great example of gegenpressing. Okay, so this is a little bit of organised chaos. So the ball's been played into Firmino, and instantly we got really good support from the runners from midfield. So Firmino has the ball, plays it to Wijnaldum, to Milner, who's got further forward, and then who feeds Coutinho, who's made a really good run from deep and put it in the corner. And this was part of our 3-1 win at the Emirates. Really good goal. Okay, this example comes from our 4-3 win at the Etihad Stadium against Man City. Firmino actually scored a hat-trick in this game, but this particular goal just epitomises why we play with a counter mentality instead of anything else. So the ball's played to Klein, who heads it onto Wijnaldum. We're not in great control here, but what a ball from Wijnaldum to Coutinho. And you can see that the defence has just been caught out of shape. Coutinho's got a nice, easy ball into Firmino there. Run it on, and he finishes with aplomb. So just a few examples of the key components of this tactic. Now, I hope you enjoyed the explanation. As you did with the last video, please drop in any comments that you have on what I've done in this tactic. Would you make any changes? Are there any players' roles that you'd change? Is there anything you don't agree with what I've done? It's an open debate. I'm happy to be challenged, so feel free. Okay, so that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It's really, really appreciated when you do. If you're new to the FM Scout YouTube channel, hit subscribe. We've got loads of really, really good content creators providing great content on this channel. Plus, if you haven't yet, go and check out fmscout.com. It's a one-stop shop for all your Football Manager needs. There's everything over there. There's tactical advice, there's graphics that you can download to enhance your Football Manager experience. It's a great, great website. I can't stress it enough. Go and check it out. As I said before, feel free to come over to my channel, CurtyFM. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. That would be fantastic. One last thing to say is if you have any real-life tactics that you want to see recreated by myself or another one of the great content creators at FM Scout, feel free to drop it in the comments. We're open to suggestions. We're happy to try anything if the demand is there, so feel free to tell us your thoughts. But that's all from me. I'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.